So let's talk about aliens. Now, why would I have a picture of a gazelle? Well, this is about alien concepts, and I've come up with the concept of an alien which borrows heavily, but not entirely, on Larry Niven's books, his puppeteer species, and they were basically a three-legged gazelle with two heads. Now, I'm following that, but I'm not going for three legs, and the reason why is I could not for the life of me work out what the gait of a three-legged animal would be, or how its rear hip would work and what it would look like. So my first reference picture is a gazelle. Now, Larry Niven's aliens were in fact called the puppeteers, and they were herbivores, and they were quite cowardly. Mine is not. Mine is a carnivorous creature which just happens to look a bit like a gazelle and has two heads, two very snake-like heads. And that's why I've got this image as a reference as well, not so much for the outside shape of the heads, but for the internal mouth detailing. Now I'm going to have much more detail inside the mouth of my detailed head than this would have, because this alien uses its head as hands, and it needs some sort of tentacles to use as fingers, which will wrap back inside the mouth when it's closed. Also, it only has one eye on each head, so it's binocular vision, but there's one eye on each head, and you can imagine that would give you a heck of an advantage with stereoscopic vision if you could separate your eyes by 4 feet or more, and that's exactly what this alien is like. So I took these two reference pictures and I created a little sketch in GIMP, which is going to help me when I come to actually flesh out this alien. And here's the sketch. You can see very lightly underneath the gazelle shape. It's not a gazelle shape, and it has these two large long necks which will merge into muscles that reach along its back, and snake-like heads with a single central eye inside a deep bony socket. And this is only a very rough sketch. Now, its brain is located in this bulge here. The heads are far too small to have an intelligent brain, so this is where its brain is, and it has a mane which runs entirely the whole length down its back. It actually doesn't have a tail, just a very long mane, but it's a hoofed animal. So the gazelle reference has helped there with some proportions. I've changed it slightly. I've scaled the back end of it down so that it's front heavy, and this is the look I wanted, the sort of dropped rear end look, if you like. So that is the rough sketch of what my alien's going to be like. Very rough sketch, but that's all I need, because the bulk of this is going to be done in 3D in Blender. So let's go and do some roughing out in Blender. So here we are in Blender, and I need to obviously do a bit of setup first, and I'm going to keep this standard cube, which may surprise you, or maybe not. So the first thing I need to do is to hit the N key, which brings up some very useful menus, and the best one of all is the background images menu. I'm going to add that now. I'm going to set the view first to hang on a minute, left, so I've got things the right way around, because the front of my beast is in this direction, and so I will automatically have the beast the right way around to use left, right, top and bottom. And now I'm going to add a background image. Alien JPEG, and I can't see it yet because I need to what view it's actually going to be visible in. And it's not going to be visible in all views. It's going to be visible in the left view only, and it's going to be in the front. And where is it, you might ask? In fact, where is it, I'm asking? It must be here somewhere. The answer is I have to be in orthographic view, I believe. So we'll go to orthographic view, and there it is. Whoops. So the next thing I need to do is get the image in the right place. So I want its feet on the ground, which is this green line here in our case. So I'm going to come down here, and it's offset horizontal, that's offset vertically, and I'm going to offset it vertically so that its feet are pretty much on the ground, something like that. And why did I start with a cube? Well, if you don't want to give yourself a nightmare later on, you want as many, if not all, of the vertices of the faces in this animal to be square. So it makes sense to start with a cube and subdivide it, which is what I'm going to do. So the next thing to do is to go into edit mode, and I'm going to subdivide this cube once, twice. Or should I do this a slightly different way? No, I'm going to do it with cube subdivision. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to modify that cube to a sphere. As you can see. So now I've got a sphere, but instead the advantage of this over, say, one of these spheres that you add down here, a UV sphere or an icosphere, is that all of these surfaces are in fact quadrilaterals. They're all squares, deformed squares, and that's exactly what we want. Now when we make this animal, we want to use left to right symmetry so that we only really need to work on one side of the animal. So if I view this from the front, now what I want to do is I want to chop half of this away, and the half I want to chop away is this side, which is the right hand side. So our left side's over here, our right side's over here, and this is where, if you're not careful, 3D can get a bit confusing. So I hit the A key to deselect everything, B key to draw a box selection, box around there. Actually, I need to turn this on first. I need to hit all of the, as you can see, all of those vertices, not just the front ones. So B around there, and X to delete. Delete what? Delete vertices. So now I've got a half a shell, and I need now to go into object mode, and I need to apply, well, not apply it, but I need to add in a mirror modifier, which, as you can see, is already set up with what you want. And I'm going to turn clipping on, because otherwise I could accidentally take a vertex over here and bollocks everything up. So I'm going back into my left hand view again. And the first thing I'm going to do is scale this so that it's roughly right for the shape of the body. Not very right, just roughly right. And I want kind of a teardrop shape going towards the back here, and the easiest way of doing that is with the, by going to edit mode, the easiest way of doing that is to use, if I hit N again, get rid of that menu because it's taking up too much space. I'm going to move this over. And the easiest way of doing that is to take one of these vertices here, say that one, use proportional editing, enable that, check that it's a sphere, it should be because no, it's on smooth, I want a sphere, and I'm going to drag this backwards, okay? So as you can see, when I click on the arrow, a big circle appears, and that lets me control how much of this mesh I'm actually moving. And I'll move it back to there, and something like that. Next thing I want to do, same sort of thing, I want to move this here, and I'm going to move this down and forwards. So if I select here, and this time I don't want to take very much of it with me at all. So I'll move forwards to there, I'll move down to there, and same with this, I'll move down like that. Why does my phone always go off at the worst times? As you can see, we've got a problem here now. We've got an area where there aren't many vertices, and what are we going to do about that? Well, what we're going to do is a loop, cut and slide. And I'm going to add in a new set of vertices just there. And I'm going to select down here, I'm going to move it down, and this time like so, and here, and I'm going to move this just for to the core, just so that the core of the animal is correct. This is the piece between its buttocks, not its actual buttocks. So this is the core of the animal, and the chest needs to move out a bit. Like that. Now we need to look at the back, because the back drops in. Going down like that. And this is a real rough out. And I need to get my N menu back again because the drawing is rather getting in the way at the moment. Still want it at the front. I want to reduce its opacity somewhat so that we can see through it a bit more. And as you can see, we've got this problem here. And this problem here. What's happened there is I've actually taken it out of left-hand view by accident. Easy to get back again. Right. So, now if I look, what does it look like? It kind of looks okay, except of course it needs to narrow down in the middle. So if I view top, and it needs to narrow down, let me see, somewhere around about there, so I'm going to need another loop cut. So I'll put in another loop cut, and I'm going to move it in. So it's pinching in, and that one as well. And that one as well. And you don't have to get this too much correct, because we're going to sculpt it a bit later when we've got the basics of the mesh done. I'm going to move into the sculpt tool. Now I've reached the stage where really proportional editing is getting in the way, and I need to move some individual vertices, so I'm going to turn that off. Something like that. As I said, this is just a very rough at the moment. Go back to our left hand view. You can see, there we go. And that wants to move in a bit as well. So that, if you like, is the body of our creature roughed out. And we now need to add the hump on the back and then some legs. And how tall is our hump? Our hump is about that tall. You can see we need to add some more loop cuts. And this is all about just doing this, just tracing around the outline of what you want, and then filling it out a bit more in 3D, which we'll do in a minute, because at the moment this hump's going to be rather 2D. As you're going to see in a second, a bit like a sail on this back, isn't it? So we need to add another loop cut in there, and let's fill this out a bit. That was a mistake, I didn't want to do that. I want to go in slightly. I want to come up and go inwards slightly. Now if we go into object mode, you'll see that it looks more like it. Still a bit peaky, but don't forget we're going to be adding another modifier to this. It could be a subdivision surface, and I'll turn up to 2, which is about where we'd be. And as you can see, it does look like a body, and that's what we want. That looks like our body. So the next thing to do is to extrude some faces and drop them down to make the legs. And then after that I'm going to tackle the neck and the head. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to turn the subdivision surface view off, which is just a simple question of clicking that eye there, and then I need to select the faces that I want to use to form the legs with. And that's fairly obvious for the front legs. It's not quite so obvious for the rear legs, and we're going to have to change some of these shapes a bit here. For example, that needs pulling back, say, into edit mode. So the creature's got more of a back to it. It wants to pull in. And now you can see that where the thigh would attach is this set of faces around here. And those are the ones we'd want to extrude out and make the rear leg out of. So I'm just going to grab those and extrude them. Face select. And I think it's that one, that one, that one, that one, and I'm going to extrude those now. Back into vertex select. One. That wants to come in and down. That wants to come in. I think it's okay apart from that. That one there needs to go that way to form a bit of a fold under. So what does that look like in object mode and with the subdivision surface on it? And we're kind of getting there. And I'm just going to keep doing this. Now our actual legs are going to come from those faces there. I need to turn off my view. Ability to mod everything. To go back into face select. Select those two faces there. And extrude. E for extrude. just noticed that by mistake I actually got this the wrong way around, so I'm going to fix that in a minute. You can fix anything in Blender. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the image over. I'm going to put it as visible now only on the right axis. View right. And suddenly magically we're the right way around. Okay, so that's kind of looking quite neat. And we need to move this forward a lot. To move this forward a lot. And up. Like that. Okay, so we're now on to our next extrusion. Should be that one and that one. Going to extrude it down. To there. And we're going to scale it in the Y direction only, so that it's about the right sort of size, and move it all that way. You can see we've got the haunches of our alien. They're on their way. Oops, forgot to switch my recorder back on, but never mind. I finished off that leg just to the block out stage as we discussed. And there we go, and that looks quite good. Now I need to think about the front leg, and the front leg gives me a bit of a problem because there isn't a vertex where I want to start, so I'm going to have to move this vertex to, well, I'm going to have to move several of these vertices actually, so go into vertex select, and the animal's kind of got to have a shoulder up here somewhere like this, and probably a bit further out. And now I can use these two. I'd like to be able to use that one as well, and in order to use that one I'm going to have to manipulate the mesh a bit more. And that one as well. And the reason for this is that we want this front leg to actually come out from the body and not be joined to it all the way down like a slab of meat. So something like that. And now I can use these three vertices to extrude myself a leg from. Or can I? No, I can't, because the front leg needs to end here, so I'm going to have to move some of these vertices as well. And this animal's going to have big shoulders. So I'm going to use these vertices here to extrude out and down. Sorry, these faces, should I say. So let me just select those faces. And we're going to extrude them out. I'm going to pull them down a bit. And what I need to do is I need to rotate those. I need to rotate these faces here, otherwise the leg's not going to extrude very straight. Moving them up a bit, and that looks better. Right, so I'm going to go back to my view. E for extrude, extrude down. I need to scale it, move it to the left, and obviously it now needs to rotate as well. I'm trying to match up that area there, because I think that's quite a critical area of our beast's anatomy. So there we go, we're still a bit too small. And there we go. So I'm going to extrude it again. Go back to our view. And this is one of those things you just have to tiddle around to try and get out of these problems. And usually you'll find they're caused by no one else other than you. And rotate. And scale down. Scale it down a bit more. And that will do. Extrude. Take this one to just above the knee, scale down. Extrude again. This time I'm going to scale up. Rotate it a bit. Extrude again. Scale it up. Rotate it to match the floor surface. And move it. It needs to be scaled up a bit more. This is kind of like sketching on a sketch pad, really, except obviously it's a 3D version. And now we want to put some material on it so we can have a look around and see what we've got. And we need to try and decide where we're going to extrude this neck from. And I think it's obviously got to be this square here. These four vertices. So I need to make some changes. It needs to bulge up there so that the neck can come out of the body. Raise that up just to keep that line straight, really. This line here wants to move to the right, oops, to the right and up, and probably in. That line there wants to move in a bit that way, in a bit that way. What I'm just trying to do is to get a suitable face to begin extruding, so I won't have so much work to do later. So it's kind of a round shape-ish, except for that vertex there which wants to come down now. So you can see it's now kind of a round shape. So we can select those faces, go back to face select mode, view right, and immediately we can see our neck's not quite as big as the drawing, but actually it might look better that way, he said, trying to convince himself. You can always go and edit it later. So E for extrude. See, we've extruded our neck, and I'm actually going to take it a lot further than that in a different direction, because what I want to do is flatten these vertices, and the easiest way to do that is to RX0, sorry, no, S Y 0, so it's scaling them all in the Y. We've now got a flat neck which we can adjust. I'm going to adjust it because it's got a peculiar kind of bulge in the bottom of it. I want to get rid of that. So select that vertex there, drop it down. I want to make this nearer circular than it is. I know it's a funny shape at the moment, but when I rotate it, it won't be. So select those again. View right, rotate, and we'll drop it back to where near where it was. I'm going to make this neck follow the top line. Okay, so we can start on our merry way now. We can extrude, move it up. No, I'm not going to start scaling it yet. I'll show you why very shortly. Rotate. Extrude. So, there we have that. And now what we want to do is we want to actually taper it. And the easiest way to taper it is with proportional editing. So I'm going to go back to vertex select mode, select that vertex in the middle there, and view right again. I'm going to go into the mesh menu, select proportional editing, and I'm going to scale. You see there's our and there we've got a nice smooth taper. Now before I do that, I just want to check to see what the whole thing looks like. So I'm going to go back into rendered mode in the viewport, zoom in on it, and you can see that's what the whole rough looks like. And this is a rough, it's a basis for starting to sculpt. That's all it is. The proportions are right, the volumes are roughly right of the shapes, but the shapes themselves, they can still change. Okay, so let's carry on with doing the heads. So I'll quickly put in a ground plane, change the value of the light to make it a bit brighter, and change the material of our beast. Basically I had this factor here set to the wrong end of the spectrum, which is why it looked rather silver. If I go into rendered, that's a lot better, and I had it set up here somewhere, so it's almost completely reflective, but it's better down here. Right, so let's get on and do our heads. Need to go into, come out of rendered mode, go into edit mode. I'm going to hide our lamp actually. Let's go into object mode for a minute. No, I don't need to do that. Hang on. If I go up to the list here, we've got our plane here, which is that one, and I can simply switch it off in the viewport so we never actually see it. That's better. Reselect our beast, and while I'm in there I will change its name to Alien. As you can see, it's now called Alien down there as well. Go to edit mode. Now the first thing I want to do is tidy up these vertices on the end of the neck, and I'm going to select these three vertices here, and I'm going to scale them in the Z direction, S, Z and 0, which will straighten them out. And the reason I want to straighten them out is quite simple. Whoops. The reason I want to straighten them out is quite simple. It's because I want to split the head in half in a moment. So let's go back to our view. Oh, before I do that, I'll best select the faces on there. Go back to face select, click, shift, click, click, click. That's all of those selected. Now I can go into our view. Now the way a snake's head works is the top half of the skull stays pretty much stationary and the jaw traps right the way open. So that's what we're going to do, but we're going to have to make the back of the head first, everything up to about there. I'm just going to extrude from there. And rotate. I want to scale up. Move it down. Now I want to take those lines, that line in the centre there. So I need to go back to vertex select, select these three vertices again. And I want to take them down to where I want the corner of the mouth to start, which is there. And that's the line along which we'll split our head. Okay, so there's more tidying up to be done yet. Because I want the head to be symmetrical, so we need to do this sort of thing, and that means we might need to alter the next ring of vertices back as well. No, that actually looks okay. We'll get away with that. Okay, so we'll go back. We want to select first the top two faces, because we've got to make this split in the creature, so you've got an upper and lower jaw, and the upper jaw contains the eye. Now I'm not going to be modelling the eye in this tutorial because that's going to come in the details section and it's going to be a separate object. The reason for that is I want to automate it. So, E for extrude, and I'm going to forget that top shroud for the eye at the moment, and the reason for that is that I want to add that onto the head after I've finished roughing it out. So I want to scale this up just a little bit. Extrude again. Scale it down. Move it back slightly. Or the start at the top of our head, I should say. Right. Now what I want to do is select these two faces underneath here. I'm going to rotate these in, whoops, need to go into our view first, otherwise it will be rotating in some random direction. Wouldn't want that. Rotate these down like that and extrude. Back a bit. Up a bit. And extrude again. Rotate. extrude again. And let's have a look at that. Right, now we're doing okay, apart from the fact that the lower jaw is a bit wider than the top jaw, and it really needs to be the other way around. So I want to scale it just in the X direction. Like that. And the whole jaw needs the same treatment actually, so I'm going to Control Z that, and what I need to do is I need to select all of those faces in there to scale down. So I'm going to turn on that little thing there which lets you select everything. Hit C for circle select. And everything there is then selected. Escape to get out of that. Make sure that I've not missed anything, and I have. I've missed the two inside faces there. So I'm going to shift. I'm going to turn off that feature. I'm going to shift and click on, right click on these two. Then I'm going to scale in the X direction. And we're still too wide. And that's about it. And that's all, believe it or not, that I need to do, apart from adding the eye socket. And I want to do that. And I'm going to do that by selecting the top two faces here, extrude those, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a play. Let's go into vertices. And remember, I want to keep these as four-sided all the time. Four-sided. Because then when I come to sculpture it, then all of the planes will be four-sided, and that is exactly what we want. I need to add a light back in so we can see what I'm doing. It's this one, it's called plane. I really ought to rename that to lamp so I know what it is another time. Like that. And that's our very basic polygon model done. So one thing I might do, which is thicken up just the end of these necks here. Looking at it, I think that needs doing. The rest of it we can correct during sculpting. And before we sculpt, there's two things, well, there's one thing we need to do, and well, there's two things we need to do. The first thing we need to do is to apply our mirror modifier. So go in here, hit apply. Whoops, go into object mode first, hit apply. And now there's no mirror modifier, because if we go into edit mode you'll see the whole thing is just one mesh. The second thing we need to do is to subdivide the whole thing. So if I select all, hit subdivide. And how many subdivisions do we want for sculpting? Is that enough? Or do we want one more? So have a look around the face area, which is where there's the most details. I think we want one more. Subdivide one more time, and that gives us a good few polygons. In fact, it gives us, if we look up here, 16,512 faces, and that should be enough for anyone. So, till I see you the next time when we'll be doing the sculpting and detailing, have fun. And if you like this, please like, share and subscribe as always, and there's our beast.
Oh, hi, Arduinotronic. For gold news, finances, opinions, art, and just loads of interesting crap. Alright?